Nutrition, it's complicated. 2,000 years ago, Hippocrates supposedly said, "Let thy food be thy medicine." What do we know today? Well, we're kind of focusing in. We know that a plant-based diet is what we should be looking towards. But there's another issue that is emerging now, and that is something we refer to as chrono-nutrition. Question is not only what to eat, but when to eat it. This is becoming very interesting. A few years ago, a paper appeared introducing this topic essentially, when they did a survey of numerous countries to see when people consume the largest meal. For example, in France and Switzerland, breakfasts are very small, lunch is the biggest meal. In North America, supper tends to be the biggest meal. Well, what they found in that study was that if the large meal was consumed early in the day, that was more conducive to maintaining body weight. Eating late in the day was not a good thing in terms of body weight. So we got started on that. Then a paper comes out, a very interesting one, that surveyed Seventh-day Adventists. A very interesting group to survey because they tend to have a very uniform lifestyle. Well, that survey also showed that people who ate a large breakfast did far better in terms of maintaining their body weight. And what was really interesting about that study is it showed that people who had lunch sort of early afternoon and then didn't eat anything until next morning did the best in terms of weight control. So that is a 18, 19-hour fast, and that seemed to be very conducive to maintaining body weight. And then we had another study, interesting one, this one from Israel, where they took some overweight ladies and they put them on a diet. 700 calories in the morning, 500 calories for lunch, and 200 calories at supper. That's pretty low calorie intake. But they compared that to the reverse. Another group was put on exactly the reverse, so they had a small breakfast, bigger lunch, and bigger supper. And wouldn't you know it, the results were that the body weight was best maintained when they had a large breakfast. It was not a good idea to eat late at night. That tended to put on weight. We also have some interesting studies from animals, from mice. Although humans, of course, are not giant mice, but we do have some interesting studies. And those studies showed that if you allow the mice to eat anything that they want, whenever they want, 24 hours a day, and compare them to a group of mice that are allowed to eat only for 12 hours a day, even though the total calorie intake is exactly the same, the mice that eat only for the 12 hours a day are far better in terms of maintaining a low body weight. So this is really, really interesting stuff. And if we go back historically, you know, in the Middle Ages, they used to say that breakfast is poison, believe it or not. But then around the 16th century, a proverb was formulated. And that proverb was, eat breakfast like a king, eat lunch like a prince, and eat supper like a pauper. Well, you know what? Those guys back in the 16th century may have been right. And we're going to pay a lot more attention to chrono-nutrition. But in the meantime, just make sure that you're eating a plant-based diet and keep a lookout for chrono-nutrition, because it really looks like eating earlier in the day is better than eating late, and we're paying more attention to the diets that have partial fasting included. The diets, for example, where you're allowed to eat anything that you want for 5 days, then for 2 days you restrict yourself to 500 calories. We used to think that was nonsense. Seems that there is actually something to those fasting diets. So that's it for chrono-nutrition, but keep eating those fruits and vegetables. And mind the clock.